And we're live. Welcome to the Dynasty 365 podcast, the Dynasty Fantasy Football podcast for fantasyandframes.com. And you can find them on us on Fantasy and Frames on Twitter. But curiously enough, you can now also find us, the show, on our own Twitter at Dynasty 365 Pod. And please, if you're listening audio, subscribe, rate, review. It'll help us out a lot. I'm Brian Ford, and I'm joined by my co-host, Tyler Howell. Tyler, how you doing?
Oh, man, I'm wonderful. We had a little bit of a week off with both of us being so busy. I'm very happy to be back and going over some rankings, and I'm super happy because all the floors are redone in my house, and it looks really good. So pretty pumped about that. How are you doing?
Yeah, it feels good to get back on the mic and be with you. And, a busy rookie season is over. No guests, no, 50 people doing a mock with us. And, it's just me and you again to disagree on Davis Mills, Brevin Jordan, and other non-Texans, I guess, right?
Yes, but it mainly highlighted by those two.
Yes. So our new Dynasty rankings are up on fantasyandframes.com, and it's our first draft of rankings that include the 2022 rookies. So we figured we'd take stock of where we're at, where we're placing the rookies, and where, heading into the rest of the offseason as OTAs and minicamps, et cetera, are going to be getting fired up. Where we have these guys and maybe who we think we are a little higher than some folks on, a little lower. Do we have a sleeper? Do we have a dilemma? But before we do that, let's get to the rooks, right? We're just coming from rookie season, and we've included our 2022 rookies in the rankings, as I said. Tyler, is there anything notable from how you ranked rookies and where you have them?
I feel like a lot of people are aggressively ranking rookie running backs, and I'm no different from that. I got three of them in my top 24. I don't think that's overly crazy because running backs typically have a pretty big impact right away, but I was I think maybe down on these rookie wide receivers. All of them had at least one huge question mark for me. You want your top flight receivers to have a good QB in a good offense or have a high volume role. And really none of those guys have all three of those. A lot of them only have one, if they have any. So I didn't have a single one of the rookie wide receivers in my top 20 in my dynasty rankings.
Okay. Yeah. All right. That is interesting. I surprisingly enough, the known and notorious ageist that I am, I don't really take the top end of rookies and get too aggressive on them. Even running backs, I am cautious with rookies. They have to show me. That said, I do have Breece Hall slotted in at 10. I think his ECR was 8. I've seen folks have him in as a top 5 or 6 running back. My highest wide receiver is Garrett Wilson at 17. So inside the top 20, unlike you, but not, too far into it. However, on the flip side, when it comes to the bottom end of rookies, so to speak, I'm much kinder to them. I'll take a chance on a rookie with upside, rather than a roster filler, some wide receiver 4 or 5 on a team, or a guy that's hanging around just from name recognition or something like that. And I think that'll be reflected when I compare some of my guys here to ECR.
Absolutely. And are there any rookies that you feel like you just, they might not be very good this year, but hey, I'll take them over, a Brandon Cooks or a DeAndre Hopkins or someone like that?
DeAndre Hopkins for sure. Yeah. I mean, and maybe to an extent, Brandon Cooks too. I have them thinking maybe in the 30s or 40s in my rankings. So there's definitely going to be a couple rookies ahead of them. Absolutely. Yeah. Although I do think I do like Cooks a lot more than I like D-Hop. That's for sure.
Yeah, I'm right there with you.
And so when it comes to my love for the Snoop Connors and Jalen Naylors and Kennedy Brookses of the world,
Yeah.
it really reflects how I root for the underdog. Take it away, Tyler.
We have a promo code over at Underdog. It's promo code FRAMES, FRAMES. And Underdog is a really good app that you can use to play best ball. You can play it for any major sport. You can go over there. I just got a notification from Underdog about NBA stuff and stuff they're doing with Luka and the Mavericks and all that good stuff. But right now, for me, it is best ball draft season. I will be jumping into NFL best ball drafts for redraft just all the time. $1 draft here, $3 draft there, because you can sit down and you can knock that thing out in an hour when you're sitting on the couch after work or something like that. And it is a ton of fun. And for those looking for more of a challenge, you can join some pre-made leagues. And some of those entry fees range not just from like the $3 that I was talking about, but some of them go up to $100. You can play their pick 'em prop games and enjoy the feeling of being right while earning some cash on the side. But most importantly, it's really fun. And I highly recommend you go over to Underdog, download the app, sign up, and use the promo code FRAMES, FRAMES.
All right. And for those of you who are writing 100 times over on the chalkboard, I will not join another startup. I will not join another startup. I will not join another startup. Firing up those Underdog drafts is a good way to scratch that draft itch and have some fun. And as Tyler said, even a low entry fee in a lot of those drafts. So fire away. So let's get into the positional rankings. This is what we're going to do, folks. For each of the 4 positions, quarterback, running back, wide receiver, and tight end, we are going to say sort of who we're high on, perhaps, a flag plant of sorts, maybe higher than we expected consensus to be. Then, of course, the opposite, who are we maybe fading relative to others, or a person that we just don't think we are as high on as the expected consensus. Then if we have a sleeper or a rankings dilemma in any of the positions, we'll talk about that too. So let's do quarterbacks. And Tyler, kick us off with my guy, your flag plant, your higher than consensus.
My guy is and has been for years Derek Carr. I have been a big fan of his for a long time. I like what he's done with the Raiders. People have really given him a hard time. And the ECR is coming back up a bit for him. The ECR is 17 right now. I currently have him at QB 12 in my rankings. He's a 31-year-old quarterback. So, in the way we're seeing quarterbacks perform now, they're playing at a high level into their mid-30s. I mean, they throw out the whole Tom Brady thing. That's not even worth discussing. These guys aren't going to play to 45. But Derek Carr has a solid 3, 4, 5 years left of high-end production. They just got one of the best receivers in the NFL and his college teammate in Davante Adams. So I think that's where some of that ECR going up a little bit is. I still don't think it's high enough. Derek Carr is a guy that's finished at QB 14, QB 12, QB 19, QB 17, QB 14 again, QB 13 in his career. So even if he's not necessarily the QB 12 every year, he's a high-end quarterback 2 or a low-end quarterback 1. And there's no reason to think that he will not be a low-end quarterback 1 this year with the addition of Davante Adams and Josh McDaniels coming over and likely running a better offense than Rich Biscaccia did for the end of last season when he was still very successful. So give me Derek Carr, give me all of Derek Carr. I've been trying to acquire him all over the place, and it's become harder ever since they traded for Davante Adams.
Yeah, I would imagine. I believe Biscaccia is what I eat with my espresso. So we had to kind of fight over Derek Carr for this one. You called dibs because you have him higher. but he was on my list. So I will go with my old standby that I'll always be higher than consensus on. And that's Davis Mills. I have him at 18. And, ECR is 24. So it's not like a huge difference. But, he's a guy that I wrote an article about on fantasyframes.com as a riser. I think the re-signing of Tunsil and Cooks and not drafting a quarterback high in this draft, kind of shows you, okay, they're going to see what he's got. They're going to give him the keys for a little while, right? I'm not saying he's elite, right? Never have. But as you and I have pointed out, some experts said if he came out in 2022, he'd be the QB1 in this class. I mean, maybe those of you who had Willis high because he shot up late in the process or whatever, maybe he would have been 2, 3, but still respectable. And I think he gets not enough love because of how bad the team is. But they've added, weapons. They have my guy, of course, at tight end, Brevin Jordan. They have Cooks and Mechie at receiver. They have Damien Pierce, right? Got drafted there.
Yep.
And again, I didn't love Pierce, but he's probably a good 2-down back. They got a veteran like Marlon Mack. They improved in other areas of the team. I don't think the team will be as bad, but just bad enough to mean that Mills will probably be throwing. And I mean, I'm not saying to the moon, but I think you can do a lot worse for your QB 2 or 3 on your super flex squad. So, Tyler, who on the opposite side of things are you maybe fading or souring on?
I don't want to say I'm fading, but I'm certainly lower than consensus on Trey Lance. Mm-hmm. I have him down at QB 16, with ECR has him at QB 10. Mm-hmm. I think some of the shine has worn off a little bit. He still has a really high ceiling, which I'm not going to take that away from him. He can still be the starting quarterback in a Kyle Shanahan offense with rushing upside, which is big time. I just did not love that they wouldn't even give the guy a chance last year. I mean, they had Jimmy G playing at a okay, acceptable level. He was fine, but it was never even a thought in their heads to put Trey Lance in the game. So that worries me a little bit. That knocked him down a few spots for me. Could I look silly when he comes out and he throws for 3,800 yards and runs for 1,100 yards and throws and accounts for like 40 total touchdowns? Yeah, I absolutely could. But I'm just a little bit lower than him, and I'll take several guys over him right now.
Okay. As always, I am lower than consensus on Aaron Rodgers, but I think ECR is catching up with me. See, here's the thing. ECR is right when they agree with me, and they're just unconscionable when they don't.
Yeah.
And so, they're catching up. They got Rodgers down to 15. I look at his wide receivers, and I can make a case, that Romeo Doubs has a chance. I can make a case that Amari Rodgers, who we thought wouldn't be a thing anymore, now could be a thing. I could make a case that even though I don't like Christian Watson, but this year in 2022, I just, I know I'm not saying Alan Lazard, but like there's a reason I'm not saying Alan Lazard or Watkins. There's a reason I'm not saying them because they are who they are. And I just look around and I see, in a dynasty perspective, a guy who's getting along in the tooth, that doesn't have great receivers, that's going to over rely on Aaron Jones in the next couple of years, probably. And not actually, Aaron Jones will be gone after this year. And I just don't see it. So thumbs down on Aaron Rodgers. And even though I'm in line with consensus when it comes to Justin Fields, I have him at 13 and they have him at 14. It reflects being lower than I had him earlier, which is about 9 or 10. And I just think I'm afraid of what the next 2 or 3 years could look like because the Bears are such an incompetent franchise. And I don't know.
I think it's a little unfair to the Bears right now to just kind of write them off as an incompetent franchise. They are digging out of a deep, deep hole that Ryan Pace and Matt Nagy dug them. It would have been nice for them to invest it in someone to help out Justin Fields.
Well, have the Bears when was the last time they were a competent franchise? Like, no matter who the regime is. Like, I'm not saying a team is like cursed, but like being a lifelong Jets fan, I kind of know, like, no matter who's in charge, it's not going to be pretty, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah. And jumping back to Aaron Rodgers, we always joke about puff pieces with different wide receivers or different running backs. I saw a sleeper notification last week that literally just said, Packers wide receiver coach Amari Rodgers is in best shape of his life. And I just laughed out loud in the middle of a meeting because I saw it. I'm like, that is the most stereotypical BS thing I've ever seen.
Well, listen, if you're 24 and not in the best shape of your life, you're doing something wrong. Speaking of sleeper, segue, who's your sleeper for quarterbacks?
I feel like I'm going way just off the reservation here, but I'm going to take Baker Mayfield. I have him at 27 currently, so 5 spots higher than ECR, but he's in a bad situation right now. He's kind of the butt of every joke that everyone tells on Twitter right now. He had a terrible year last year, but he's still a good, not great. He's a good quarterback that can be successful, and he's proven that in Cleveland. But, he's not going to take a team to the Super Bowl, but quarterbacks that are good, not great, have made really good careers and really good fantasy careers, a la Kirk Cousins, out of just being a team's quarterback. And he's not the starting quarterback for the Browns clearly right now. No one wants to pay draft capital to take on a $19 million cap hit. But there are, I would say, a minimum of 6 teams in the NFL that Baker could walk onto the roster halfway through training camp and be the starting quarterback.
And the Texans are not one of them.
The Texans are kind of one of them. But, maybe they could fall in that like 6 to 8 bubble where teams, we'll go with that.
Sure.
They're on the bubble. But he's likely going to start somewhere this year. Ideally, it's going to be Seattle. I think that is by far the best landing spot for him. It's been said that the Browns are willing to take on a large portion of his salary to get him off the team. So eventually he is going to be off that Browns roster and find his way onto a roster where he is likely going to be a starter. So, I will take Baker Mayfield right now because everyone is treating him like he has died and retired.
Okay.
Or retired and died, whichever order you prefer.
Oh, jeez. Okay. All right. So for me, I have a 2022 sleeper, sort of, and that's Matt Ryan. Listen, I know he looked bad and he looked old, right? But it's easy to do that with Atlanta's horrible offensive line and Kyle Pitts and not much else to speak of, occasionally Russell Gage, right? Like, I think when you go to a team with a better coach and good offense, good offensive line, a running game, and you can throw to Pittman, and if Alec Pierce hits and one of the tight ends hit, I think he could surprise some folks. I think from a dynasty perspective, Sam Howell is intriguing. People have said, in fact, he's a Baker Mayfield lookalike. I have him at 37, ECR at 41. I think him not having his weapons in 2021 really hurt, his production, his tape, and how people thought about him. And in fact, it's not a question where it's, then, you should be able to perform out your weapons if you're an elite quarterback. I'm not saying he's elite, right? But also, like, the coaches kind of just said, well, go do your thing and, be like the whole offense, and didn't really help him out too much. But long story short, you're behind Carson Wentz. It's not the most formidable, person ahead of you in the first string. Not that, sorry, Jorge, the Commanders are all that great a team, but, Antonio Gibson is good. Terry McLaurin is good, right? Jahan Dotson is good, so, I mean, it's not, I think, a stretch to say like, okay, well, Howell might get a chance this year or even later, and actually produce, even if it's not this year with Wentz hurt or Wentz benched, I don't know. I mean, good quarterbacks are hard to find, and who knows? Maybe after Wentz is gone, he's the guy, and he does pretty well, and he's a solid quarterback too for your super flex. I think he's intriguing, and he's a guy to watch. So now let's go to our dilemmas, folks. Can
I support your Matt Ryan argument?
Absolutely, yeah, sure.
As a fellow Matt Ryan, I guess we'll call it believer, at least for this year and maybe the next. Matt Ryan was actually ranked 15th in EPA per play last year. A lot of people forget the Falcons won 7 games somehow last year. They won 7 games with Cordero Patterson and Olamide Zaccheaus.
Olamide
Zaccheaus and that bad offensive line. You know how they won 7 games? Because Matt Ryan carried them to those wins. Matt Ryan is still a good NFL quarterback, and he is going to win some games and be a asset in redraft, at least for this year. And, he could be a nice little ad for Dynasty over the next couple of years. So I'm right there with you.
Okay. I appreciate the support. And there you have it, folks. Unanimity between 2 people. It's so it is said, so it is written. Dilemmas, folks that we had a hard time ranking. Tyler, go ahead.
Oh, man. So my guy was Tua. I traded for Tua earlier in the offseason, and now I'm just like, it's throwing my brain for a loop. I have him at 17 currently. So, kind of right in that gray area between good and bad. But there's like an equal chance that Tua could be out on his butt in 8 months. He also could vault into like top 10 quarterback range with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle and, every mediocre to above average running back in the NFL and Mike Gesicki. And he has a ton of weapons. And if he is okay, just as a quarterback, he is going to succeed. I didn't want to say this word, but I'm going to say hugely. I'm going to succeed hugely next year. He's throwing me for a loop. I got him at 17. We're going to see what happens over this next season. Is he going to be out on the curb, or is he going to be a top 10 guy in fantasy?
Right on. Yeah, I think for me, I've always kind of been a little higher on Tua than other folks. I have him at 12. When I look at number of good years versus someone like, I don't know, a Stafford, who I have a couple notches below him, I think more competency as a passer than, say, Jalen Hurts, who I have a few spots below him, et cetera, et cetera. It just becomes a matter of like, I didn't like set out saying Tua is a, QB1 top 12, but he's going to beat it. It just, that's where he was. And I think with the addition of Tyreek, he has, from a dynasty perspective, a good window of a few years to be the guy. But as you said, could, if he falters, be gone by 2023, and we're talking about something completely different. For me, Hurts, as aforementioned, was hard to rank. I have him at 16. And ECR is 11. I don't know. He looked more confident and competent as a passer here and there last season, but I just, the Eagles fans that I talk to are like, we arrange things so that 2023 we're going to draft a quarterback. Even if you do say, oh, he's got AJ Brown and stuff, like I just don't see enough from him to be confident to say, okay, yeah, I'm going to roll with him. He's going to be a franchise quarterback. Just not my guy. And speaking of franchise quarterbacks, Trevor Lawrence, I have him at 9 because of age and upside and obviously, talent that he brought into the NFL. But who knows, right? I mean, you don't bail on rookie quarterbacks, after one bad season, and we all know he's quote unquote, generational, although that's probably not true from an NFL perspective. But who knows, right? Like I could totally see him, even with Zay Jones and Christian Kirk and Travis Etienne still having a pretty not so good season, although not terrible like last year. But that I could see him and his talent showing through, and the improved coaching and him, really, really lighten it up in the next couple of years. So he's another guy that I've had a bit of a dilemma with. Where do I really stand on Trevor Lawrence? I'm cautiously optimistic, but I'm cautious.
Yeah, I really like Trevor Lawrence. Looking at my rankings, I actually have Hurts one spot ahead of him, and I'm like, I don't know about that.
Yeah. Okay, so let's move on then to running backs. All right. So again, we'll do the same thing. A my guy or you're higher on, a guy you're lower on, sleeper, dilemma, running backs. Go ahead, Tyler. Take it away with your my guy flag plant positive story.
All right. Positive. I am way higher than everyone else, I think, on the planet than on Saquon Barkley. People are writing him off. He's at running back 14. He just turned 25. He's going to get signed to a nice contract next year. He'll likely be off of the Giants. They might franchise tag him. They might bring him back. That's always a possibility. We'll see what happens, but I think he could absolutely be healthy this year. That's why everyone's writing him off, because of injury. Saquon is in an elite tier. He could likely be the singularly most talented running back in the NFL. I think the only guys that are in that tier with him are people like CMC and Jonathan Taylor. And, this is not counting injury, all that good stuff, but those guys are just uber mega talented, and they are so good at football. And he can catch the ball, he can run, he has the speed to break big plays. He can just do absolutely everything for an offense if he can stay on the field. So, ECR down at 14. I'm a lot more optimistic on Saquon coming back and being healthy this year than a lot of other people. And, just throwing this out there, rose-colored glasses. Can you imagine Saquon having a healthy year this year and having a good year, and then all of a sudden getting out of New York and breaking free of the Giants, fog, whatever you want to call it, and then signing a 2-year, like $20 million deal with the Chiefs? Like, come on, man. Tell me that doesn't sound great.
Well, only to not be used by Andy Reid. So, speaking of the Chiefs, so a little behind the scenes here. I'm on the split screen, right? And so when the public comments come in and they get up on the screen, they're really small for me, right? The public comment from Facebook was none other than top 4, Nate Markham from Vegas, tuning in from Vegas. So if you're still listening or still watching, Nate, hello. And, thanks for tuning in on what sounds like, I hope, a vacation for you. Or at least maybe, I don't know, a trade convention, and that you're going to turn into an excuse to drink a lot. And, hopefully we've given you Saquon Barkley now to add to your offensive weapons after this year. So you're welcome.
Yes. And Nate, if you can find a sports book that will give you great odds on betting the Cincinnati Bengals to finish in 4th in the AFC North, throw 50 on it for me.
Nice. Okay. Spicy. All right. So for me, I thought going into this that I'd be higher than consensus on Austin Eckler. He seems to be a guy that I'm higher on than other people I know, other rankings I see, other people I'm in trade talks with. I think he's one of those what I call young 26 or young 20. Like, he doesn't have a lot of between the tackles mileage on him, and in a PPR format, I think to have him below certain guys that I see above him a lot, I just don't understand it. But here I am. I'm chalky and I'm in line with ECR. So let's talk about our fade or our down arrow or our lower than consensus. Start us off.
Elijah Mitchell. I got him at 26, ECR 23. the only place that is worse for fantasy running backs is New England than San Francisco. Maybe Trey Sermon went and made Kyle Shanahan dinner and brought him some chocolates and, maybe some flowers for his wife or something like that. Got back on his good side. He all of a sudden starts using him. They just spent a 3rd-round pick on Tyrion Davis-Price. I think they still have Jeff Wilson on their roster.
JaMychal
Hasty. Elijah Mitchell is probably the most talented running back on that team, but for Kyle Shanahan, that does not mean a lot. And I'm honestly, I don't really want a part of like going out and trying to acquire Elijah Mitchell because it seems like an absolute just mess of a backfield.
Yeah, I've always thought that like some of that was a little overblown with the Shanahan stuff and the San Francisco running back can't trust. And, and I thought, maybe Mitchell is finally a guy he can settle on. And I bumped him down. I bumped him down to like 16, I think. But like to see him at 20, TDP was one of the biggest reaches in the draft. And Trey Sermon has shown nothing on the end. I don't even want to put him on the field. Yeah. I just people are ready to sink him because they drafted TDP. Oh, Kyle Shanahan. You know what? Kick the tires. He might be a buy low, and with and we've seen what he can do. The payoff might be worth it. I think for me, I thought I'd be lower on Monty. I have him at 20. ECR is 19. And as one of the few people who was still optimistic about CEH, even going into last year, he's down to 26 for me now, and he's at 28. So I'm actually like right around ECR for the guys that I thought I'd be lower. So that shows you when ECR is correct, when they agree with me. But yeah, those are guys that I've definitely bumped down in my rankings, which is kind of how I thought of this category for sure. Sleeper. Who's the sleeper?
Well, I feel like this is cheating because I think he's been like a dynasty sleeper for 2 years now. But Melvin Gordon, he went back to Denver because he wanted an opportunity to win a Super Bowl with Russ. They gave him. He didn't get a huge contract. 1 year, $2.5 million. That is not a lot at all. They're going to lean on Javonte Williams more this year, but I feel like Melvin Gordon has proven that he is a productive NFL running back, and he's going to be a shoo-in for 225 touches next year. And that's not saying that Javonte is going to get any less than 300, but I think they're going to run the crap out of the ball, and they're going to open up some lanes down the field for Russ, and he is going to rain touchdowns to Cortland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy. And Melvin Gordon is, again, going to be a productive weekly flex for your dynasty fantasy football team.
Okay. So I'm going to go with a couple backup types that I think if things break right. So Jorge's man, B-Rob, Brian Robinson on the Commanders. I happen to be a guy who's higher on Gibson than a number of other folks that I see, but you can't deny that they brought in a complete back with NFL size and Alabama pedigree to be the backup. And I think it looks like, to protect Gibson's health, they're going to be more rotational. And I think, he's a underrated in Dynasty. I have him at 30. ECR has him at 49. One guy that I'm way lower on than other folks I've seen, but not ECR, Tony Pollard. I have him at 32. There was a whole lot of buzz, last year, and people like, Pollard greater than sign Zeke, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I have him down at 32 because I don't trust Jerry Jones to do the right thing for football. I just, he loves Zeke, and I could foresee them feeding Zeke, and I saw some stats about post PCL sprain or whatever, where maybe if that knee is better, Zeke, gets back onto, even though he's whatever, he gets back to that level of, even it's not elite anymore. It's so I don't know about Pollard's playing time and touches and that sort of thing, but I think even if I think he's maybe only got like 1 year left in Dallas. I I think go for him. Try to, especially if the season starts and it looks like they're feeding Zeke a little bit. See if you can grab Pollard. I like him. But again, I was higher than ECR. I'm a little lower than ECR, despite the fact that I'm calling him my sleeper. And I know you'll appreciate this one, Snoop Connor. I like my deep cuts.
Yeah.
This is an example of when I will rank a bottom level rookie above like roster filler vets that I just don't like and don't trust. And especially at running back, right? Like, I have him at 74. ECR has him at 116, right? This is the Jags Carlos Hyde replacement, right? He's going to get 2 down touches. Etienne, Lisfranc injury, which is not always, easy to come back from or maneuver, right? We didn't see it from him yet in the NFL, although we know he's talented. And yes, I do have him ranked in the top 24, right? But there's a chance, Connor gets some run and could be, spot starter for you or flex filler or something like that. And I don't think it's out of the question at all. I've grabbed him a couple times in like deep rookie drafts, like 4 and 5 round rookie drafts.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, I think I think he's being slept on for sure. Again, not a great prospect. I think I had him like below the top 15 in my running backs, but I mean, it's just the path to touches is there.
It absolutely is.
So dilemma, who was your rankings dilemma? I know this is going to hurt to say this for you.
My guy was Zamir White.
Mm-hmm.
I really liked Zamir White the more film I watched of him at Georgia. He might not have a huge upside in the passing game, but as a between the tackles runner, he is very talented. He's a big dude, big, fast dude that can run people over. He can absolutely handle a big workload of between the tackles running in the NFL. Add to that the narrative of what the Raiders are doing. They went and got Devontae Adams, and they still have Darren Waller, and they have Hunter Renfrow, and a good enough offensive line, and they just paid Derek Carr. Add on to all of that, they declined Josh Jacobs' 5th-year option. So this is Jacobs' last year. Essentially, it is his last year on the roster, barring some re-signing. So Zamir White, he might be a little bit of a redshirt year because I think Jacobs is still going to be their alpha running back this year.
Mm-hmm.
But Zamir White really has a shot for a big-time role in 2023, and he has the pedigree for it. I have him at 38, which I think is it's pretty high compared to ECR. ECR's 48, but with the potential of his role in 2023 and being just the alpha on that team after Josh Jacobs departs, he could really shoot up a lot higher than 38. So I kind of ranked him a little aggressively, but didn't go crazy on it.
Yeah, I had him a lot lower as a prospect than you did, so it's reflected in my rankings for sure. I have him at 59, I think,
for running backs.
Well, I think it's not so much different types. It's just that like when I think about Dynasty PPR and I think about Zamir White as a between the tackles straight line runner, very just boring and unimpressive. Mm-hmm. I just I don't really see much that I like about him. And so I've got him down at like 59 right now. Mm-hmm. Who knows? They might try to re-sign Jacobs cheaper than the 5th-year option. Whatever it is that they do, like I'm just not sold on the player. But I do agree that there's a non-zero chance that he's the one there, and when you're the one, then you got to pay attention for sure.
Yeah.
My dilemma was Michael Carter. I had him a little higher, and I bumped him down to 27. ECR is 32. I don't know what I want to do. Right. I hear one chorus of people saying, that's it. That's it for Michael Carter. They drafted over him. He only had, whatever, draft capital to begin with, 4th round. Breece Hall can catch passes. It's over for Michael Carter. Right. And then I hear, and this is the chorus that I'm in, it's Matt LaFleur is the Shanahan tree, right? Like You know, they're going to use multiple backs. They're going to use them in different roles and find ways to get them touches. They're going to preserve Breece Hall and not give him like a gazillion touches because they have Michael Carter to lean on, like, and they don't have to. So I'm not ready to sink Michael Carter yet. But I am kind of like concerned, you know, like which of these theories is going to be correct. I lean towards the latter, but I'm worried. I'm worried.
Yeah, truth is probably somewhere in the middle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that is often the case with these things, right?
Yeah.
Let's go to wide receivers, right? So it used to be that rookie wide receivers took longer to produce than running backs did. And what we've seen the last few years is rookies and second and third year guys just come right in and just like produce well, whether it's colleges running more pro offenses or something like that, whatever, right? And that's certainly reflected in my rankings over the last couple of years. So let's talk about these wide receivers and if there's youth involved in any of our categories here. So why don't you start us off with your flag plant, my guy?
Man, I have loved Michael Pittman for the past year. I've got him ranked as my wide receiver 13 currently, if I can talk. ECR of 18 right now. Mm-hmm. He's a 24-year-old wide receiver. We just talked about 20 minutes ago about how we're both a fan of Matt Ryan this year, and I'm even a fan of Matt Ryan beyond this year. Hopefully that even gives the Colts time to address the quarterback position further. But I think the reason I'm really high on Michael Pittman is he's good. He's solid. He is just going to be a good fantasy producer for you. Is he ever going to finish as the wide receiver 1 overall in a season? No, probably not. But could he be the wide receiver 15 overall for the next 4 years? Yeah, I don't see why not. And hopefully the Colts succeed with drafting Alec Pierce. I think Pittman would actually benefit from having someone on the opposite side of the field from him and pulling some coverage from him because T.Y. Hilton was not doing that. It just wasn't happening for him, so they were able to focus on Pittman. I'm really, really high on the upside of Michael Pittman just being a year in, year out, high-end wide receiver 2. And I think that earns a spot near the top 12 wide receivers in Dynasty.
Right on. Yeah. He's got a lot of upside. I worry about the run-heavy nature of the team, but certainly, Matt Ryan greater than signed Carson Wentz in most regards. So looking forward to see what Pittman can do. I have kind of always been higher on Jalen Waddle than some other folks, especially ECR. I've got him up at 6. ECR is 12, which I think this is one of the examples where ECR is just unconscionably wrong because they disagree with me that much by 6 spots. And I look at my wide receiver rankings and I say to myself, who are you really going to put above Waddle? People want to say, oh, yes, Tyreek will take some targets off, right? Like when you bring in somebody who's like going to be like the number 1 target hog, it's going to affect people, right? More than like if you brought in, just another weapon that just might take targets, right? So for sure, but it's gonna take Waddle out of like slot purgatory. I think it's gonna open up things for him in general. I think you're gonna see probably an even better year this year from Waddle. And I mean, can you really make a great case to rank DK Metcalf ahead of Waddle right now with the outlook on that team? He's got raw talent, but I'm not saying 2 is elite, but who's throwing to DK Metcalf, right? And he's 2 spots ahead of Waddle in ECR, right? Mm-hmm. Are you really going to rank, I don't know, Stephon Diggs, right? They have the ECR has Diggs at 9, right? 3 spots ahead of Waddle. And I know that I'm lower on Diggs than consensus, but I mean, to me, that's just nuts. But anyway, so Waddle's a my guy for sure. And my other one, Elijah Moore, I thought was going to be, definitely higher than consensus because people would sink him because of Garrett Wilson. but I have him at 16, and ECR is 20. I really believe in the talent. I think they're going to find ways over the next few years to incorporate Hall, Carter, Moore, Wilson, maybe the tight ends, and I think things are looking good for Jets offensive players. That's, of course, if you think Zach Wilson can be a good quarterback, which going into his draft season, I didn't think so. Not that he's shown all that much, but when I look around at what people say about him, and it's just like he showed a little bit toward the end of the season. I'm a little more convinced about Zach Wilson. Not that he's going to be like, franchise level elite, but I think he'll be good enough to make that offense go well with the good coaching that he has. So therefore, I remain high on Elijah Moore. Who are you thumbs downing on? Who are you fading, or think you're lower than consensus? Or
I feel like I'm just going to get trashed for this, but it's Treylon Burks. ECR currently has him at 24. I have him at 31. He was a lot of people's immediate wide receiver 2 in rookie drafts this year. Some people's wide receiver 1. Everyone was super pumped about him. Mm-hmm. I guess I don't understand why. He's physically talented. He absolutely is. He looked good in his games at Arkansas. But why are we assuming he is A.J. Brown? A.J. Brown was, he's a little bit bigger. He's a little bit stronger. He's a little bit faster. He's a little bit taller. He runs better routes. He does everything a little bit better than Treylon Burks does and did. But he's also not walking into some high volume role. A.J. Brown has been great the past 2 seasons, not because he has all this volume and is this alpha wide receiver 1. A.J. Brown has had 105 and 106 targets over his past 2 seasons. That is not a lot when you look at some of the high-end fantasy producers. And the Titans have now added Robert Woods, who, regardless of age, is still a very good wide receiver. So Burks is going to be struggling to find a whole lot of work. And if he isn't as super efficient as A.J. Brown was, which I don't know a lot of players that are, I think he's going to disappoint this year and maybe going forward. So I'm fading Treylon Burks a little bit compared to expectations.
Okay. Yeah, I soured on him as a prospect going into as the draft process moved on, as we got closer to the draft. So I'm with you. So I'm looking at some of the guys that I have on my menu here for my thumbs down, and really, a couple of them are right in line with ECR. So I'll go with Drake London, that I have at 27 and ECR has at 17. I think people are saying, "Oh, he's going to be alpha at X," and who else are they going to throw to besides Pitts? And it's going to be Pitts in London. It's going to be awesome. And Mariota and Ritter. No huge improvements on the offensive line from what I know, right? Tyler Algiere, who we have debated, but not super.
He's going to get Hulk and be the world breaker Hulk.
And honestly, as of the big 4 wide receivers that I kind of had lumped into tier 1 as the prospects, he was 3 or 4, and I've seen some people knock him on his routes and stuff like that. And, I don't know, he's big and he's a good target and all that. But, I think slow down on him for the next couple of years here when you're looking at Mariota and Ritter. And I don't know, that's just, I think people are kind of way too hyped on him. So who's your sleeper for wide receivers?
I feel like I didn't realize he was going to be this low in ECR, but I'm going to go Darnell Mooney. I think he's ECR 49 at the receiver position.
Oh,
who
is doing these rankings?
He's not dead. He's a good wide receiver. He is by far the best wide receiver on a team with a promising young quarterback. Maybe in the future he won't be the wide receiver 1, but he showed a lot in the past few years, and I feel really good about Darnell Mooney's prospects, and that is just way too low.
That's criminal. That's
Yes.
criminal. These people should be arrested. Not that I like, arrests and all that and criminal justice system, but come on, let's go. So I love my deep cut wide receivers. So I don't know. I guess I'll pick one here. And I'm gonna make Boss Man happy and say Diami Brown. Dynamic player, has upside. Team wasn't good, didn't find the field much. Jahan Dotson's there, as now competition underneath McLaurin. I still like the player. I'm not appreciably higher on him than ECR. I have him at 84. ECR has him at 89. But I'll give you one that's a little spicy. Jalen Naylor, a rookie. I have him at 91, and ECR has him at 150. All right, this is just outrageous. But listen, the thing on Naylor was, if he can stay on the field, he's got big upside. He could be somebody to watch, right? So, I mean, when you walking into an aging Thielen and KJ Osborne, come on, 150. Get over yourselves, people. Get over yourselves. Hey, Gator J's here. Gator J's commenting on YouTube. Yes, one of our new friends. He did a mock with my other podcast and a mock with this podcast. Gator J, nice to see you. Thanks for tuning in.
Absolutely. Thank you, sir. Oh, man, where are we at?
We're at dilemmas for wide receivers. So we did our sleepers, and now what's our dilemma before we go to the wasteland of tight end?
Oh, boy. Well, drink this in. My dilemma was Gabe Davis.
Okay.
I feel like end of last season, he had a good finish to the season, and everyone's, really rolling on the hype. Gabe Davis is going to be big, and then the Bills go out and they sign Jamison Crowder, and they draft Khalil Shakir, and they bring in OJ Howard, and they really don't want Gabe Davis to be their wide receiver too, although he could be. So I am just struggling back and forth with, is he going to be their wide receiver too, or is he just going to be their wide receiver 2C next to Crowder and Shakir and all these other guys? So I currently have him at 49, which is it's way too low. I know it's too low, but I'm just having trouble getting him up there because of all the questions. Because Buffalo continues to invest in the pass catching core.
Yeah, I'm a truther, so I'm going to be on the optimistic side with him. My bias. I had trouble with Metcalf. It's like blasphemy to not have him in the top receivers. And I thought at 7 he was going to be right around but I actually have him higher than consensus. But I don't know what to do with him. I can't see a great 2022. But who knows? Maybe they bring in Baker at quarterback, and he's just a little better than Geno Smith and Drew Lock, and who knows? Another guy that's interesting to me is Christian Kirk. A lot of people. He's ostensibly the one on a bad team with a good young quarterback who's going to be throwing a lot probably. I don't know. I have him at 38. I thought I was going to be low, but I kind of don't know what to do with him. But I am higher in consensus. Another guy I'm struggling with is Calvin Ridley. I know it's what, but we know he's gone for this year, but he's going to be 27 when he comes back, 2 years removed essentially from productivity. So what are you doing with him, right? And so I have him at 60 and ECR is 51.
Yeah. It feels some people are just dying to get rid of him. I've seen him go for a 3rd and a 4th, which, I know he's not playing this year, but I'll take that all day. I will absolutely get rid of a 3rd and 4th round pick to have the prospects of Calvin Ridley coming back for a solid 3 years to finish out his career.
I can dig that. Gator's asking about Gabe Davis, and I like to talk about Gabe Davis. He's proven to be valuable. I don't know about proven, but on the field, but I think he's valuable in the trade market. I think there's enough people that still like him, like I do, that there's buzz around him that maybe you can get something good for him. I'm not huge on Shakir. Good prospect, but essentially, what a 3rd round rookie draft pick dart throw. Mm-hmm. Sanders isn't going to be there, although he's still listed as on the team in a couple places, but I don't expect him to even be there. Beasley is gone. Crowder is, it's a crowded room, but it sure ain't a deep room. And I'm thumbs up on Gabe Davis. So yeah, Gator J also wants to buy on Calvin Ridley. So you heard it, folks. Take it from Gator J. Go buy Calvin Ridley.
Go in sync on him. Buy.
Oh, yeah. Nice. Yeah. See, now I thought that was Backstreet Boys, so it tells you how bad I am. All right. So we have to do it. Tight end. No, I'm just kidding. No, I mean, a lot of dynasties are tight end premium. Some 1.75, 2 points. Like, these guys can really be difference makers for you week to week. Mm-hmm. So who are you planting a flag on? Who's your my guy at tight end?
He's been a very popular guy for people to fade, but I'm going to stick with him. I'm going to stick with Dawson Knox. I really like him as a player. He's a really good athlete. I think he showed that last year. Just his movements are fluid. They're quick. He has really good hands, and he's a favorite target in the red zone of one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, and Josh Allen. So, he didn't have a ton of targets last year, 71, but like you just alluded to, Brian, it might be a crowded pass catching core, but it really isn't all that deep of one. And I think he has a connection with Josh Allen, and I'm going to bet on that. I've got him at my tight end 5 in Dynasty, and people have him all the way down at 10 in ECR. So I'm clearly a lot higher on him than others, but I feel pretty good about it.
The analytics guys don't like him, for whatever purpose that serves for you. I just want to name it and point it out that they like guys like Goddard a lot better. I think I have Knox like maybe 8-ish, somewhere in there. So probably in between you and ECR, and it's time, right? It's time. Who my guy is, and that's Brevin Jordan, right? I am stubbornly, aggressively have him at tight end 12, unconscionably low at tight end 26 in ECR. I just, I see an improving team. He's tight end 1. Mills is, I think, underrated. I think Brevin Jordan is underrated. He's not a great blocker, but he has the athleticism, and he showed flashes last year. And when I look at some tight ends that people have above him, and I'm like, nope. And I just, he's a my guy. I know I'm ahead of him on consensus. I know I wrote an article about him as a dynasty riser, and I'm gushing over him. But, can you really make a great argument that like he's all that much lower than, David Njoku? Irv Smith, I like him, but like, what has he proven?
It's proven nothing.
Zach Ertz, long in the tooth with McBride, at his heels. Like, are we really saying that these guys are that much higher ranked than Robert friggin' Tonyan and Rob Gronkowski are ranked higher and Dynasty ECR than Brevin Jordan, and I just think that's just illegal, and I think people are out of their wits, so to speak. By the way, put that comment about your age back up there from Gator J, right? Okay. Here's the thing. He's implying that you showed your age by making an in-sync reference. He's implying that you showed how old you are.
Yes.
For me, that showed how young you are. So I don't know. Gator J, what are you, like 14? Like, really? Like, NSYNC is an old man reference? What is going on here? I mean, gosh, I guess as an ageist with my Dynasty rankings, I guess I'm being called the old man here in my when it comes to NSYNC.
Yeah, man, you thought it was Backstreet Boys. I thought you were about to say, "Oh man, I thought that was New Kids on the Block."
Right. All right. So let's land the plane here because we're at the hour mark. So I'm fading Logan Thomas. Real quick, who are you fading?
I'm fading Albert O. There's Albert Okwabunam from the Denver Broncos. There's not a real case to be made that he is going to be good this year, and I don't know why people think he's going to be.
Yeah, Jonnu is a fade of you. I'm sorry, a sleeper of yours. Tell me about that.
He would. No, Jonnu. I was very confused. That is just how I started my sentence.
Oh, I'm sorry.
About Austin Hooper being my sleeper.
I'm sorry. Sorry about that.
I was like, no, I did not do that. Mm-hmm. And then I read the sentence, but it makes more sense. Austin Hooper is a sleeper. He's a clear tight end one on the Titans offense. He's 27 years old, and he has an ECR of 29. That is criminal.
Okay. For me, Daniel Bellinger, I have him at 30, ECR 52. What's his competition? Jordan Akins and Ricky Seals-Jones. Dilemma for you was?
Robert Tonyan. Aaron Rodgers doesn't have much of anyone to throw the ball to. And Robert Tonyan is 2 years removed from being the overall tight end 4. And I'm sure that volume will increase from 2020 with no one else to throw the ball to. So there's really no reason why Tonyan can't be a top 10 tight end this year. And people are just fading him like crazy.
Right on. And by the way, Gator J is 45, so I apologize. My dilemmas are Ertz and Irv. I just see them as like I need more information. That'll do it. Okay, so let's see. If you want to go to see our full rankings with the rookies included, go to fantasyandframes.com. There's also going to be great stuff coming out on the website. There's always great stuff on there already. We're going to have Dynasty Target articles rolling out soon. That's going to be fun as the offseason progresses. You can find me at Twitter, on Twitter at @FFJunkie_. Tyler, they can find you on Twitter at
FF Tyler Heil. That's HEIL for those who are not Germanically inclined.
All right. And be sure to check out all the other pods in the Fantasy and Frames network, like Shoot the Gap, IDP, Thursday nights at 8. Fourth and Frames is going to be coming back as we move toward the end of the offseason. And our DFS podcast, Daily Fix, will be rolling around then too. Subscribe, rate, review, subscribe, rate, review, subscribe, rate, review. And now follow us on Twitter at Dynasty365 Pod. That's it. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We're out.
Thank you, everybody.
I can do this all day.
Yeah, I know.